Okay, I think we're ready to get started. Welcome to the Poetry Box Live. I'm going to move on to our next reader, and our final feature tonight is Cynthia Gallaher. And Cynthia is the author of Epicurean Ecstasy, More Poems About Food, Drink, Herbs, and Spices, plus 3 other full-length poetry collections, Earth Elegance, Swimmer's Prayer, and Night Ribbons, and 3 poetry chapbooks. She's also published the nonfiction memoir, The Frugal Poets Guide to Life, How to Live a Poetic Life Even If You Aren't a Poet, and that won a National Indie Excellence Award. Cynthia appears on Chicago's public library list of top 10 requested Chicago poets and was named one of 100 women making a difference by today's Chicago Women magazine for her writing and ecological work. She has also received numerous grants from the City of Chicago Department of Cultural Affairs and the Illinois Arts Council. It is my pleasure to welcome Cynthia Gallaher.
Thank you so much, Shawn. And I'd like to thank Robert as well for really bringing forth, and it's probably backwards. Is that backwards? Epicurean Ecstasy. Robert designed the cover and Shawn designed the interior. And it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me to read and to read with Mary. And I loved your animal poems. That's another one of my favorite topics. And Meg, I wrote you a little note in the chat about how I felt about your poems. They're very moving. I'm going to read most of the poetry from Earth Elegance, maybe one. It's a new poem. And I'll start out with, and these are all, food oriented or drink oriented. And I'll start out with, the question, what came first, the chicken or the egg? That's something but this is bringing in the world, the earth, involved in it as well. It's called Egg World. Which came first, the chicken or an earth, either oval or round, which wobbles like a raw egg or spins like a cooked one, taking the same time as an over-easy whirl, adding orderly, odd moments to peck around and get cozy on her nest. The chicken lays her egg. I open coop roof to gather one. I see a face, a suggestion for sustenance for brain, nerves, eyes, for those in shades of white and shades of brown. I see protein for a planet. The shell, a seamless earth. The egg white, its foamy, wavy waters. Yolk at the core, the blazing fire. And between shell and substance, an airy atmosphere. A place to catch my breath between crescent bites, amid revolutions and rotations in sync with the moon, which stays in sync with the egg, keeps in time with the chicken, marking the hour we continue to see sunrise, encased among straw each morning, right in time for breakfast. And then sometimes people eat beans with their eggs, but beans kind of can be served at any time. And this is a journey of the way I used to look at beans and how that evolved through my marriage to a Mexican American. It's called Generations of Beans. And Henry David Thoreau had a quote in Walden: "I was determined to know beans." After my widowed mother married a civil servant, meat and mashed potatoes again graced our table. She whispered to me, "Only the poor eat beans." Yet we stored dry beans in our cellar just in case. Those beans sometimes did duty on picnic bingo cards, what was danced beneath accountants' fingers, and enemies' boast didn't amount to a hill of. They're what I glued along with red lentils, green dried peas onto black construction paper and oatmeal boxes in school. My tongue forgot the cooked varieties taste, but a 20-something trip 900 miles south lavished mouth's memory by means of Cajun red beans spicy punch on Rue Royale. After wedding bells back north, I also heard my macro Mexican husband call our wedding gift of a potato masher a bean smasher, used when pintos swell deep pink and plump, only to give way under pressure, turn creamy and fragrant under the soupy sway of garlic, onion, cilantro, cumin, all air biscuit free with epazote, a velvety fold with brown rice into corn tortillas. And like mom, I store beans in basement cellar, but also in cupboards jars to add to savory simmerings. She visits, sees our humble kitchen, but doesn't know our hidden grand prosperities in Great Northern, Black Turtle, Cannellino, Tuscanello. Some people might not know, especially vegans, that figs are fertilized by insects. So, and then sometimes when I look at figs, it kind of looks, they look like minerals inside, amethyst or onyx, and you'll hear that in the poem. So the question is, figs, animal, vegetable, and mineral? Is trans-species hanky-panky taking place in plain sight, open air, beneath fig leaves? Pushy, stingless, pollen-ridden wasps lose wings and antenna on one-way trip through figs' valve-like eye, to burrow in its fertile maw, to weave wispy wasp feet into fleshy furnishings. Line walls thickly in onyx, strew carpets with amethyst pillows, to help become the food that separates the civilized from barbarian, yet makes fools of those who savor figs as a strictly vegan treat. I have a poem about salt, and you may wonder, is that food, drink, herbs, or a spice? But salt is another mineral. There's a mineral involved here, but without it, we wouldn't have the savory food that we have. We wouldn't be able to survive without salt. And so there's kind of a history of salt in a culinary and a survival sense in this poem. May you have salty days ahead. To sit in the heavily wooded Appalachians, it's hard to imagine remnants of Iapis Sea 300 feet beneath us, filled with 600 million year old brine, saturated juice of amniotic fluid, blood plasma, lymphatic circulation, starter liquid of worldwide nation states, the sea-like soup we swim in, mineral springs from which we stir. Historically, too little of it. Now, too much, a modern profusion. Restricting salt is about as easy as cutting back on blinking, one MD said. Yet ancients' lack thereof often meant annihilation. Again, reaching the outskirts of civilized life sometime in the future, might salt be worth more than books or gold? We raise gardens, we butcher meat, we tap water from the deep. But without salt from far-flung locales, would life as we know it change, starting with the gentle stench of salty kisses? Would we mourn the cypress black of pyramid shapes, the gallows salt caves of Krakow, the Celtic gray of Irish seas launching unseen fireworks in our mouths, the Egyptian knack for preserving mummies, the Mexican offerings at the ofrenda, rites of purification, disintegration of the dead, the kosher coarseness of migrations, Himalayan reds drawn from loftiest rocks, fleur-de-sel caviar, salt flowers raked from great sheets along Atlantic shores, floating like snowflakes, smelling of violets. The easy preservation of olives, cheese, salami, anchovies, and the brining of American turkeys. Could our millennial blood hold steady at 0.9% salt, dissolving our fatigue and cranky moods, dancing with water as a balanced path to rehydration? Oh, crystalline structure of sodium and chloride, cheap and positively charged, iconic ions we take for granted to be valued at any price next time we lack. Let's relish the pinch, the dash between thumb and forefinger, the half teaspoon's disappearing act in boiling water, the salt grinder's mild cascade along a platter of vegetables. Sprinkle it lightly through your days on earth, but may you sprinkle it, seeding life's highs as well as lows, where watermelon can become sweeter, tears more savory. Maybe it's time for something green. Let's dig into our broccoli. Again, this was another transformation for me, as many from childhood to adulthood, getting a flavor for foods like onions and broccoli. And this is called broccoli transplantation. When did I wind my way out of childhood's bitter broccoli forests, cease after dinner hours alone at the formica table, engulfed in shadows of overcooked stunted trees, picking through branches and trunks with an uneven fork? At what level of green did broccoli become estate landscaping? Colorful curb appeal next to grilled salmon and quinoa. Play host to sesame seed, olive oil drizzle, and fresh lemon. Each new guest condiment cling to this urbane veggie, sending floodlights of acquired flavor to new heights. I'm going to read a poem that now was recently included in an anthology about shoes. Well, what is the shoes doing in with this food? But it's a kind of a crazy poem about sesame and flaxseed and toe shoes and ballet and the audience. And then this anthology was from Highland Park Poetry in Illinois. Thank you so much for that too. On toe shoes shaped like sesame seeds, the ballet dancer performs a series of releves, then spins her shoes into tahini. Tahini pushes between clean bare toes to the envy and applause of hummus, halva, and baba ganoush. Meanwhile, flaxseed spills as prolifically as Niagara Falls from stage to orchestra pit. The tuba gets clogged, but there's not a dry eye in the house. Flaxseed oil lubricates complexions, eyes, bones, and joints of audience members dressed head to toe in linen, as well as dancers in umber and ochre tulle. Throughout the theater, high heels, Oxfords, Mary Janes, and loafers become pestles to the mortar of earthy, nutty choreography. And the last poem then this will be my penultimate poem because I'm going to read a new poem after this, but the last poem I'll read from the collection is a toast with champagne. And this took place in a little town in Wisconsin. And it's called Found Champagne Poem in an Unclaimed Wisconsin Corner. 51 degrees champagne at the 42nd parallel. You pull a magnum from the plastic pail ice bucket, foil and wire cage tossed aside to grasp the cork between thumb and forefinger, then turn the bottle. Pop, sizzle, stars. Liquid plays flute as I pour Blanc de Noir for both of us, seated in our folding chairs. Shall we toast? To what today? Napoleon Bonaparte said of champagne, in victory one deserves it, in defeat one needs it. Though it's a day of neither defeat nor victory, but part of some other scaffolded demolition or yet ungrouted building block towards something we yet don't understand. The champagne happily chips away at it a little, the way its grapes chip at chalky hillsides northeast of Paris for nourishment, to later be crushed and create bottles full fermented and aged. Yes, I found this poem like we found this special bottle marked down in the corner bin of the dusty liquor store. And now at our card table outdoors, we breathe hillside air and swallow tiny bubbles of carbon dioxide. Am I, like you say, this half-hour's mermaid of the extra brute ether? Or you, my midnight prince of the prestige cuvée? Or merely both as simple as this Tuesday sparrow song night, yet still savvy enough to quote Dorothy Parker? Three be the things I shall never attain: envy, content, and sufficient champagne. And then the last poem is a new poem, and it's kind of my pandemic poem, but it is based on the herb rosemary. And rosemary is both a culinary herb, really great with chicken, and a medicinal herb as well. And it's very effective in for our memories. People use it before tests, the oil or the herb, or when you're studying, that sort of thing. So this is called the herb rosemary against forgetting. In a future far away and unclear, it may hurt to remember, as now, the sting to envision what's ahead. Instead, aren't we wired not to forget how the year 2020 rearranged our lives? Like the herbal teacher Rosemary, who at ancient weddings was woven into brides' bouquets and garlands given to grooms so as not to forget their vows to keep love ablaze. Likewise, sprigs laid aside loved ones who passed away, always to be remembered. Rosemary, focusing our attention today more sharply, attendant at life and death, valiant cohort in the thieves' oil team against medieval plagues, taking its antiviral crusade and breath into the 21st century. With aroma of both field and forest, both sweetening and cutting, green of spear, silvery shield, Rosmarinus officinalis, dew of the sea that can live through a drought, deep in its DNA history, like ours, knowing an instilled sense against forgetting? Or is it remembering how refreshments of rain would come again to visit? Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, thank you, Cynthia. I just love this book. I loved it right away when you sent it in. And you just magically intertwine the history, the nutrition, the storytelling. I mean, it's all there, and it's all about food, and I love it. And it's delicious. It's a delicious collection. And I'm so glad I got to finally hear you read them out loud, because that was a real treat. And of course, now I'm starving. So I'm glad it's dinner time. So thank you so much.